The engine didn't just fail. It screamed. A violent hiss tore through the morning air as steam erupted from beneath the hood of the black Mercedes, and the car rolled to a dead stop in the middle of a busy Detroit intersection, like something had simply given up inside it. Car horns erupted immediately. A delivery truck driver leaned out his window. "Move it, lady." Inside the car, Claire Harrington pressed both palms flat against the steering wheel and closed her eyes for exactly 2 seconds. That was all the panic she allowed herself. Then she opened them again. Her phone was ringing. The board meeting. The most important meeting of her professional life. $200 million on the table. Investors flying in from 3 cities. A presentation she'd been building for 4 months. And her car had just decided to die in the middle of Jefferson Avenue at 8:47 in the morning. She stepped out into the honking chaos and walked to the front of the car. Steam was still rising. Drivers behind her were furious. Nobody offered help. Nobody slowed down. Everyone in this city had somewhere to be, and none of those places involved her. Then a battered blue pickup truck pulled to the shoulder. The driver stepped out slowly, the way men move when they're not trying to impress anybody, just sizing up a problem. He was tall, broad-shouldered, work shirt stained with grease that didn't come from this morning. His name tag Reed. Marcus Reed. He looked at the Mercedes, then at Claire, then back at the car. "Looks bad." Claire laughed, a short, sharp sound that had nothing to do with humor. "That's encouraging. Didn't mean it that way." "Well, that's how it sounded." Marcus didn't apologize, he just shrugged. "I fix cars, not feelings." Claire stared at him. For a fraction of a second, in the middle of all that noise and steam and stress, she almost smiled. If you love stories about quiet people doing extraordinary things, subscribe right now, hit the like button, and tell us where you're watching from. What happens to Marcus Reed today will change his life in ways he never saw coming. Marcus stepped forward. "You mind? Can you even tell what's wrong from looking at it?" "Not yet." He crouched beside the front wheel. "That's why I'm looking." Claire opened her mouth, closed it. "Fair enough." He released the hood latch. More steam. He waited for it to clear the way someone waits for a person to finish a sentence, patiently, without rushing. Then he leaned in close, listening. "Water pump. You know that already." "Pretty sure." He pointed to a dark trail along the bottom of the engine block. "See that leak? That's where this started. Probably been building for a week." Claire looked. She couldn't argue with what she was seeing. "Can you fix it?" Marcus straightened up. "Temporarily, enough to get you where you need to go." "How long?" 20 minutes, maybe 25. Claire checked her watch, calculated, looked at the traffic building behind her like a wall. "Do it." He walked back to his truck without another word. Returned with tools, a flashlight, 2 replacement parts he apparently just happened to be carrying, and a calm that felt almost offensive given the situation. Most people in Claire's world either feared her or performed for her. Marcus seemed completely unaware that either option existed. She was still trying to figure out what to make of that when a voice broke through the noise. "Dad." A boy of about 12 came jogging toward them from down the block, baseball glove swinging from one hand. "Dad." Coach changed practice to 4 instead of. He stopped when he saw Claire. "Oh, hi." Marcus didn't look up from the engine. "Claire, that's Jaden." "Hi," Claire said. Jaden looked at the Mercedes, then at his father, then back at Claire with the appraising eyes of a kid who has spent a lot of time in repair shops. "Water pump." "Water pump," Marcus confirmed. Jaden crouched down beside him without being asked, holding the flashlight exactly where it needed to be. They worked like that for the next 20 minutes, quiet, coordinated, no wasted motion. A system built from years of small moments. Claire watched them and felt something she didn't have a name for yet. "How old is he?" she asked. 12, Marcus said. "Almost 13, Jaden corrected. 3 months away. Still counts." Claire smiled. It surprised her, not the kind she put on for investors. 23 minutes after Marcus opened the hood, he closed it. "Dry it." Claire climbed in, turned the key. The engine caught immediately, smooth and steady, like a bad morning deciding to become a good one. Her eyes went wide. "How did you?" "It'll hold for today," Marcus said, already cleaning off his hands. "Get it looked at properly tomorrow." "Marcus," she stepped out of the car. "That was remarkable. It was a water pump. Most people would have told me to call a tow truck." He said nothing to that, just looked at her like the compliment didn't quite fit anywhere useful. "How much?" He named a price. Claire genuinely thought she'd misheard him. "That's half of what roadside service charges just to show up. That's what the work is worth." She doubled it before he could argue, held out the cash. Marcus frowned. "That's too much." "No, it is." "No, it isn't." She kept her hand out until he took it. Then she reached into her bag and produced a business card. "If you're ever looking for a different kind of work." He took the card and put it in his pocket without reading it. Claire noticed. "You're not even going to look at it." "Later." "You don't know who I am." He met her eyes for a moment, steady, unhurried. "Should I?" She opened her mouth, closed it. She was Claire Harrington. She had been on the cover of Fast Company. She had been quoted in the Wall Street Journal 17 times. She walked into rooms and people stood up. And this man, with grease on his collar, wanted to know if he should know who she was. For the first time in a long time, she didn't know what to say to that. She got in her car and drove to her meeting. 3 days later, Marcus had forgotten her completely. Because Marcus had bigger problems. The kind you can't outwork. His repair shop, 8 years old, built from nothing, built on handshake deals and late nights, and a reputation that spread through the neighborhood one fixed engine at a time, was dying. Business had slowed. Bills had stacked up with the quiet persistence of snow. The bank had started calling in that careful, polite tone that means something far less polite. And 30 days ago, his landlord had taped a notice to the door of his office. 30 days to catch up on back rent or vacate the premises. Marcus stared at that notice every morning before opening the garage. He hadn't told Jaden. The boy had enough to think about. His phone buzzed. "Dad, don't forget my championship game tonight." He typed back immediately, "Wouldn't miss it, never." He meant every word of that. At 6 o'clock, Marcus was in the stands. He had been loud from the first pitch. Jaden played center field, and every time the ball went anywhere near his son, Marcus was on his feet. "That's him," he announced to no one in particular. "That's my boy right there." Parents around him smiled. Some laughed. Jaden, between innings, looked over at the stands with the practiced mortification of a 12-year-old whose father had absolutely no volume control, which was also somehow the expression of a kid who secretly loved every second of it. Halfway through the 4th inning, a black SUV pulled into the parking lot. Claire Harrington stepped out. Marcus sat very still for a moment. "What are you doing here?" She sat down in the empty space beside him like she'd been planning to all along. "Good question." "Jaden," she looked out at the field. "He's the one in center." "Yeah." "He's got good instincts." He was reading that last at-bat before the pitcher wound up. Marcus turned to look at her properly. "How do you know baseball?" "My father coached Little League for 20 years. A pause. "He just never coached mine." Something in her voice closed off quickly after that, like a door she hadn't meant to open. Before Marcus could say anything, a crack split the air. Jaden had connected with a fastball and sent it screaming toward the center field wall. The outfielder took 2 steps back and then stopped because there was nothing to do. The ball cleared the fence by 8 feet. Marcus launched himself off the bench. "That's MY boy. That is MY boy right there. Number 11. That is MY kid." Every head on the field turned. Jaden rounded third with his head down, grinning the helpless grin of someone being deeply embarrassed by someone they love. Claire was laughing harder than she had in months. Afterward, the team having won, the trophies distributed, the parents filtering out, Claire stayed. She and Marcus sat on the otherwise empty bleachers while Jaden ran laps with his teammates. "You never looked at your phone," Claire said. "What? The whole game, you never checked your phone." Marcus shrugged. "Why would I?" She didn't answer. She was thinking about every game her father had missed, every recital, every graduation dinner where he'd slipped away to take a call. He'd built an empire her father had. He'd just done it in the hours that should have belonged to her. "Your son knows you love him," she said quietly. Marcus frowned like she'd said something strange. "Yeah, I'd hope so. That's not as common as you'd think." He looked at Jaden, who was now sprinting the warning track for no reason other than the joy of it. "He's all I've got," a simple statement, no performance in it. Claire looked away. Because for some reason, that answer hit somewhere unexpected. Later they ended up at a diner 2 blocks from the field, the kind with laminated menus and coffee that arrives without asking. Jaden ate with the efficient ferocity of a growing boy who had just hit a home run. "Where does all of that food go?" Claire asked. "Growth," Jaden said. "Black hole," Marcus said. "Growth. Black hole." Jaden grinned and ordered pie. Claire laughed and then surprised herself by staying in the laugh, not pulling back from it, not managing it the way she managed everything else. Then she slid a business card across the table. "Actually read it this time." Marcus picked it up. His face changed. "You own Harrington Automotive Technologies." "Yes, the Harrington Automotive Technologies. The one and only." Jaden leaned across the table and squinted at the card, then sat back slowly. "You're rich, rich." "Jaden," Marcus started. "I'm just saying what it is." Claire laughed. "I like him." "Everybody does." Marcus said it with the tired love of someone who has been charmed and exasperated by the same person for 12 years. Jaden nodded as though this were a well-documented fact. Then Claire put her hands flat on the table and became someone slightly different, the person who had built a company from a single service bay to 3,000 employees. "Marcus, I need to tell you about something I'm working on." He waited. "My company is launching a community transportation initiative. We're going to service vehicles for families who can't afford repairs, single parents, veterans, elderly residents, people who lose their jobs because their car breaks down and they have no way to fix it." She paused. "I've been developing this program for 2 years, and I've met every kind of executive and consultant you can imagine. And they all want to optimize it." Her voice carried a specific kind of fatigue. "They want to turn it into a metric, something that looks good in a quarterly report. Nobody actually wants to sit across from a mother of 3 and explain why her transmission matters." Marcus said nothing. "You stopped for me," Claire said. "You didn't know who I was. You didn't check your phone before you came over. You just stopped." "It's what you do." "No," she said, "it really isn't." She reached into her bag and set a folder on the table between them. Marcus opened it. The first page read, "Community Fleet Director. Candidate recommendation, Marcus Reed." He stared at it for a long time, then looked up at her. "This is a real offer." "Yes. Why me?" "I just told you why. You met me twice. 3 times counting tonight." Her voice was steady. And in those 3 meetings, I watched you fix a car for a stranger, spend an entire baseball game paying attention to your son, and order the cheapest thing on the menu without making a point of it. She leaned forward slightly. The executives I interview spend the first 10 minutes of every meeting trying to tell me who they are. You've never once tried to tell me anything. Marcus sat back. He looked at the folder, at the salary printed on the second page. The number didn't even seem real. I need to think about it, he said. Claire nodded. Come to headquarters tomorrow. There's something else I want to show you. Before we go on, have you ever been helped by someone who didn't need anything from you? Drop it in the comments. And if this story is landing, hit the like button. Marcus thinks tomorrow is a job interview. He has no idea what's actually waiting for him. Marcus arrived early. He stood in the lobby of Harrington Automotive Technologies and did not allow himself to be impressed, which was its own kind of effort, because the building was the sort of place designed to impress people who thought they were past being impressed. A receptionist led him upstairs. Claire met him at the elevator. You're early. Old habit. Come on. She walked him down a hallway and stopped outside a conference room. Through the glass, Marcus could see 6 people, executives in suits, a lawyer with papers in front of her, 2 people he didn't recognize. He stopped walking. What is this? Part of what I needed to show you. Claire. I know it looks like a lot. It looks like a boardroom. That's because it is. She held the door. I promise you've already survived worse. He wasn't sure about that, but he went in. A gray-haired man at the head of the table stood. Mr. Reed, I'm Thomas Alder, board chair. Claire has told us a great deal about you. That's concerning, Marcus said. A few people in the room laughed. Some of the tension broke. Alder smiled, more genuine than Marcus expected. We've been reviewing our community initiative for the last several months, and we discovered a problem. Marcus waited. Fraud, Alder said. The room went quiet in the way rooms go quiet when the word is true. A screen came to life behind him, financial documents, invoices, audit trails. The executive who originally managed this program, Claire said, stepping forward, diverted nearly $4 million over 3 years. Money that was supposed to go to vehicle repairs for struggling families. Money that was supposed to pay mechanics in underserved neighborhoods. Marcus studied the numbers on the screen. He didn't understand all of it, but he understood enough. So it wasn't just mismanaged, he said. People who needed help didn't get it. That's correct. He thought about the families who'd come into his shop with cars held together by hope and electrical tape. He thought about the veteran who'd paid him in installments over 4 months because it was that or lose his job. He thought about the expression on people's faces when a car they couldn't afford to fix was suddenly running again. Who fills that role now? He asked. That's why you're here, Claire said. She slid a new folder across the table. He opened it. The compensation package was on the first page. Marcus read it once, then again. The number didn't change either time. Annual salary, bonus structure, equity participation, a benefits package that included an education fund. Jaden's college, covered, more than covered. Marcus set the folder down carefully. I'm a mechanic, he said. I fix cars. You do a lot more than that, Claire said. We know about the widow on Mack Avenue whose transmission you rebuilt at cost. The teenager whose first job you saved by fixing her car for free on a Sunday. The single father you let pay in groceries because that's what he had. She paused. We talked to people, Marcus, a lot of people. The room felt smaller suddenly. How many people? 41. Silence. Every single one of them said the same thing, the board chair said, that you never made them feel like charity, you just helped. Marcus looked at the table. He had done those things, all of them. He'd never told anyone about any of them because telling someone about kindness seemed to miss the point. Claire pushed one more document across the table. Marcus looked down. He recognized the address immediately. His shop, the street number, the property parcel. He lifted his eyes very slowly. Claire's voice was quiet. "I bought the building." Marcus said nothing. "The property, the full lot. I bought it 3 weeks ago when I found out about the notice." "Claire." "It's yours, no mortgage, no lease, yours." She took a breath. "You built something real there. You were about to lose it for the price of a bad quarter. That didn't seem right to me." Marcus stared at her. He was a man who had learned to carry weight silently. 8 years of building, of struggling, of watching the money never quite reach the end of the month, no matter how hard he worked. He'd told no one. He'd adjusted, improvised, kept the lights on and kept going. He hadn't cried about it. He hadn't asked for help. And now, a woman he'd met on the side of a road 3 days ago had noticed. Not just noticed. Done something about it. The room was very quiet. Marcus looked away at the windows, at the Detroit skyline beyond the glass. He pressed his jaw together. His hands were flat on the table. "You didn't have to do this," he finally said. "I know." He looked at her. "Why?" Her answer was simple. "Because you reminded me of something I'd forgotten. I fixed your car." "You stopped," she said. "You didn't know who I was. I was just a woman in a broken-down car and you stopped. Not because there was anything in it for you." She paused. "I've been building this company for 12 years. Somewhere in the middle of all of it, I stopped stopping. I got very good at moving forward and very bad at noticing." She met his eyes. "You noticed, every time, for years, with no one watching." The silence in the room had a different quality now. Then Claire nodded toward the door. "There's one more thing." Marcus exhaled a short laugh. "Of course there is." She opened the door. Jaden walked in. He was wearing his good jacket, which meant someone had told him to. He looked at his father with the expression of a kid who has been keeping a secret for too long and is very relieved to finally stop. He walked over and put a small envelope on the table in front of Marcus. Marcus opened it. Inside was a letter. Handwritten, Claire's handwriting. He recognized it from the contract headers, the quick, decisive strokes of someone who writes like they think. He read it. He didn't make it to the second paragraph before his eyes blurred. The letter wasn't about the job. It wasn't about the building. It listed, one by one, every person Claire had spoken to. 41 names. Next to each one, in Claire's own words, a summary of what they'd said. "He fixed my car the week my husband left. He said don't worry about the money. I don't think I would have made it to work that week without him. He stayed until 10 at night so I could pick up my kids from daycare. He never charged me for the extra hours. He showed my son how to change the oil. My son has been taking cars apart and putting them back together ever since. He's studying engineering now." Marcus read every word. 41 people, 41 moments he had mostly forgotten because he'd done them and moved on and never expected to see them again. Jaden put both arms around his father's shoulders from behind and pressed his face into the back of Marcus's neck the way he had when he was small. The room looked away, not out of discomfort, but out of respect, because some moments belong to the people inside them, even when others are present. Marcus sat there for a long time. Eventually, he found his voice. "You really did all of this?" "Yes." "Why?" She'd already answered that question. She answered it again anyway, differently this time. "Because the people in that letter needed you," she said, "and you showed up for them, every single one." A pause. "I wanted to show up for you." One of the board members began to clap. It wasn't a polished sound. It was the clap of someone who meant it. The person next to him joined, then the next. Within 15 seconds, the entire room was applauding, not the calibrated applause of quarterly earnings presentations, but something human and unrehearsed and real. Marcus sat in the middle of it with his son's arms around him and let it happen. Jaden, for once, said nothing. He didn't need to. 6 months later, the shop on Mack Avenue had more work than it could handle. Marcus had hired 12 people, then 20, then 30, mostly from the neighborhood, mostly people who needed a start, mostly people who reminded him of himself at a harder point. The Harrington Community Fleet Program had expanded to 4 counties. Families received same-week service. Veterans had a dedicated intake line. Single parents got emergency maintenance visits if a car broke down and they couldn't get to the shop. Every week Marcus drove the routes himself, not because he had to, but because he wanted to remember what it was actually for. One afternoon, he was standing outside the shop, watching the afternoon flow of cars in and out, when Jaden appeared beside him with a baseball glove on his shoulder and the casual energy of a boy at the exact right age. "You know what's weird?" "What?" "Mom would have loved this." The noise of the street softened for a moment. Because Jaden was right, she would have. She would have stood exactly here, in the afternoon light, watching people drive away with their cars fixed and their problems smaller, and she would have been proud in the quiet way she was proud of everything Marcus built. He put a hand on his son's shoulder. "Yeah," he said, "she would have." They stood there together for a moment, not filling it with anything, just letting it be what it was. Then another voice arrived. "I'm not interrupting, am I?" Claire, coffee in both hands, the particular smile she wore when she already knew the answer to a question. Jaden let out a theatrical groan. "Here we go." "What?" Claire said. "You two do the thing." "What thing?" "You know what thing." Marcus took the coffee she offered, their fingers crossed for a moment. "It's not a thing," Claire said. Jaden pointed between them. "That right there, that is the thing." Marcus looked at Claire. Claire looked at Marcus. They both laughed at the same time. "See," Jaden said. He shook his head and walked toward the field behind the lot, glove already on, ball already in his hand, muttering something under his breath that made them laugh again. Marcus looked out at his shop, at his employees, at the cars coming and going, at the small printed sign above the bay door that read, simply, "We fix what matters." And he thought about broken engines and wrong turns and bad mornings that turn into something else entirely when one stranger decides to stop. He thought about all the things that look like problems until you're far enough away to see what they were. He thought about how the best things in his life had arrived without announcement, wearing work clothes, asking nothing. Claire stood beside him. The afternoon held them both. Here Marcus thought, this is what I was building toward, I just didn't know it yet. If Marcus's story stayed with you, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and share this with someone who needs to hear it today. Tell us in the comments, what was your favorite moment? When Marcus stopped on Jefferson Avenue, when Jaden hit that home run, when Marcus read the letter. The people in your life who give quietly, who help without announcing it, who show up without being asked, they think nobody notices. They're wrong. Kindness keeps a record, it just takes its time getting back to you. See you in the next story, share.